To the U.S. now, and the Supreme Court in Washington has ruled that President Obama's landmark health care bill is constitutional. The law passed in 2010 requires all Americans to obtain health insurance or face a penalty fine. It's the centerpiece of President Obama's legislative program and been a big bone of contention ahead of the U.S. election in November.
In the wealthiest nation on earth, no illness or accident should lead to any family's financial ruin. I know there will be a lot of discussion today about the politics of all this, about who won and who lost. That's how these things tend to be viewed here in Washington. But that discussion completely misses the point. Whatever the politics, today's decision was a victory for people all over this country whose lives will be more secure because of this law and the Supreme Court's decision to uphold it.
Joining me from Washington, the Democrat Congressman Dennis Kucinich. Very good to see you, Congressman. The President certainly dodged a bullet on this one.
Well, I think even more significantly is the fact that millions of Americans who had pre-existing conditions will now be covered. There's no limits on lifetime medical costs. Children are covered. If they're 26 and under, they're covered on their families' policies. This really is an important step, I believe, in what is the ultimate direction this country has to take, and that is in a direction of single payer.
But if it is such an impressive piece of legislation, so important to America, why does the Republican Party promise to keep on fighting this? And if they get their man Romney into the White House come November this year, they're going to wipe it off the statute books?
Well, I think it's a dangerous promise to make. If you're going to promise that there'll be tens of millions of more Americans without health care, I think that's going in the wrong direction. I mean, inevitably, we're going to have everyone covered in this country. And the only way to do that, to make it affordable, is to have a not-for-profit system called Medicare for All. And I voted for the Affordable Care Act because I saw it as a transitional moment where we can prove that it's possible to have health care reform within the context of a for-profit system. That's why this is an important decision. So reform is possible. Now we have to set the trajectory further into the future and see what we can do to make sure that we ultimately keep all costs down and cover everyone. And the only way to do that is to have a single-payer system. I think America will inevitably get to that point.
Is it affordable for America, and are the majority of Americans buying into this?
Well, let's face it, I mean, there still needs to be some discipline with respect to the costs that health insurance companies charge for their policies. Healthcare costs are going to continue to rise. More people will have access to it. They didn't have access before. So this is a first step, but it's not the last step that we need to take in order to make sure that all Americans will be able to have affordable health care. And the only real way to do that is to have a not-for-profit system.
Dennis Kucinich, thanks very much for joining us. I know you got to get away. Thanks for joining us from Washington there. Up in a couple of minutes.